Okay. Okay, everyone. I'd like to call to order right at 1:30. And we'll start off by recognizing that we're conducting our business today on the territories of mostly the Neutronolth people, various First Nations, but also potentially also Coast Salish as well, depending on where everybody is. And from there, I think the next thing is to take a look at the agenda. So this meeting is being conducted via live stream. And if anyone wishes to potentially send in any comments or questions, primarily questions, then that can be done via, I believe it's called responses at acrd.bc.ca. Okay, so that brings us to the approval of the agenda. Are there any items that need to be added to the agenda? Director McNabb?
I was going to approve the motion to approve the agenda.
I don't see anybody popping up, so I'll put that motion down. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Cole. Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Great. That brings us to declarations. Does anyone have any declarations of gifts or conflicts of interest for this agenda? All right, seeing none, moving on. That brings us to the adoption of minutes. The first one is the Board of Directors meeting dated November 12th, 2020. Moved by Director Shannon, seconded by Director Beckett. Does anyone have any comments?
I do.
Go ahead, Director Cote.
Thank you. For the audience or people that are on phone, could we possibly say our name when we're making a motion?
Yes. Thank you, Director Cote.
Thank you.
That is one thing that we have quite a few people who are connected by phone or not on video. Before you speak, if that would be helpful, if you were to speak your name before you second or move or have a question. Okay. And those of you who are connected but don't have your video on, just make sure it's on when you speak. Oh, thank you, Director Botner. Okay. That brings us to no more comments. Okay. All those in favor of adopting the minutes? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 4B, which is the adoption of minutes for the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting dated November 18th, 2020.
Move adoption of the minutes, John McNabb.
Thank you, Director McNabb. And
Everybody else?
Thank you, Director McCarthy. Are there any comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so that brings us to item 5, which are petitions, delegations, and presentations. So today with us we have 2 Amira strains, but we have Amira Strain, Marianne Paquette, and is Bob connected? Let me see here. No, I don't see. Oh, there he is, right next to. And in regards to a Pacific Rim coordinator, WildSafe BC regarding the end of the season report. So I don't know who's speaking first, but generally we give 10 minutes. And if you hit the 10-minute mark, we'll pause it and see if there's how much is left and see if you can keep going. But that doesn't count comments or questions and answers. So I'm not certain who starts, so please take it away.
I was in charge of putting the PowerPoint together. We each did 1 slide, so we were each going to do 2 minutes. So I can share my screen and share the PowerPoint. And I believe the speaking is Bob, and then Mandy, who is the second Amira Strain, myself, and then Marianne. I will share my screen.
Are you able to share your screen? Oh, you're muted now, sorry. We may need to get Janice to, there we go. Okay, Bob, if you want to unmute and take it away, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my name's Bob Hansen. I'm the WildSafe BC coordinator for the Pacific Rim region. And that's very good. This is my third season, and the program area that I cover under the Pacific Rim program is Hausut First Nation, Taloquit First Nation, District of Euclid and District of Tofino. The program season runs from May, and this year it looks like we'll be working into February. And it has support of all levels of local government, 3 businesses and 1 NGO. In terms of a program season overview, starting with human-wildlife interactions, bear reports this year were down from a high of 143 last year to 40 this year. And last year we had 13 conflict destructions of bears, and this year only 2. Unfortunately, we did see a rise in road deaths with 9 bears killed in collisions. Cougar activity was up from 9 to 13 compared to last year. I just heard today of an attack on a dog in Tofino by a cougar, but no details there. Wolf reports down from last year, from 19 to 14. 2 incidents early in the season with wolves interacting with dogs. 1 dog was injured. In terms of program activities, there's operational activities, primarily preventive education or prevention education, how to coexist with wildlife in our region, as well as reacting to specific situations, trying to work out solutions, and quite a number of collaborations. So right now I have 13 different collaborations with various partners in the region. Everything from bear campsite program, food sustainability, waste management, OCP, and bylaws. Here's an overview of some of the educational activities. Hosted a wildlife ranger session to Tofino Parks and Rec, 8 presentations to various community groups and government, 7 bin tagging surveys in 2 communities, booth sessions, and the BC Goes Wild for weekend, Wild for Wildlife weekend. 34 Facebook posts, regular posts updating residents and visitors on activity, recent wildlife activity, and coexistent tips. And that increased this year. The following of those posts increased 38% this year. With subsidy funds provided by the ACRD, was able to support 8 electric fencing installations to try and prevent conflicts. 2 of them were at resorts, several in protection of chickens, garden, and a potential one coming up to protect goats. Ongoing and regular interviews with local media, blog posts, educational videos, radio, etc., and training workshops. Just recently trained District of Tofino staff on use of bear spray, and trained a group of kayak guides. So that's a quick snapshot of the Pacific Rim program for 2020. And I'd like to thank all of the sponsors that have made it possible to have a strong and long season.
That's great. I think the next one up that was mentioned was Mandy. Do you have a section now?
Hi there. My name is Mandy. I'm the Banff coordinator. And it was a really quiet year for conflict. I didn't have any stats because there was only 1 incident which involved a dog and that got injured by a bear. it was great that it was a low incident year because I was able to focus on education. While this is my first year as a WildSafe BC coordinator, I've been running a similar program for the last 6 years as a volunteer. And because there's no bylaw officers in Banfield, I often, I jump into the middle of the situations that occur with wildlife management issues. So it was great to be able to focus on education. And so this is a picture here of the workshop that we had. We had a electric fencing workshop for coordinators in Banfield at the beginning of the year, so that other coordinators could then go back to their communities and teach people about electric fencing. And I did a fair bit of a preventative education. So we had a Facebook page for the first time, which was well received. And I spent a fair bit of time talking to lodge owners. There are a number of new people coming from places that don't have bears and are moving into own lodges. So I did some assessments of their properties to try and help them with preventative conflict management. And a lot of my time was spent dealing with the campsites in Banfield. There are 2 campsites. There's an official one on the east side, and there's a lot to be done to try and get it up to the standards that are required to be bear friendly, bear safe. So I've been working with the parks there, and they seem interested in trying to fix things up and provide facilities to protect for people to put their food in, and other issues. And then there's the issues on Brady's Beach, which is an unofficial campsite. It's tricky because it's Crown land, and there are a lot of unofficial campers there, and the community doesn't want to have campers there. So the community doesn't want to have any postings or any information about campsites or how to camp properly. So it's a bit of a can of worms, and I'm hoping to try and work with the community to push that forward to try and get some sort of official stance on how to protect Brady's that way. But it's great timing because Banfield is going to be changing. We got road improvements. We're going to have a lot more people coming into town. And so it's a great time to be coming up with some solutions. And I'm working on the bear hazard assessment right now. So hopefully once that's done, we'll be able to get some bylaws in and try and get some more concrete solutions in how to do safe wildlife management in Banfield. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Amira, I think you said you were up next.
Yeah. So my name is Amira. I'm the community coordinator for the Alberni Valley. And it was my first season as a community coordinator, as well as the first season for the Alberni Valley, having a WildSafe representative in the Valley. And so a lot of my focus was on community outreach to get the word out that WildSafe is in the Alberni Valley. And part of that was I did several WildSafe Ranger presentations to kids in grades kindergarten to grade 7. So I taught over 400 students in both English and French around wildlife safety and attractant management, as well as had super success in garbage tagging and garbage management. I did several outings for garbage tagging, and the results, the number of bins left out the night before went down dramatically. And I worked with the bylaw and conservation officers they did audits after I had tagged certain collection zones. And unlike last year, where there were over 200 tickets issued by bylaw for bins placed the night before, there were 0 tickets issued in the season of 2020. So that was super great news. I did lots of community outreach through Facebook. The Facebook page got over 100 likes within the season, and through interviews with the Alberni Valley News, as well as I participated in the annual pumpkin pickup, which is to help people find a better use for their pumpkins after Halloween, so they don't just sit out and attract potential pests and wildlife. And moving forward, WildSafe is hoping to work closely with the organics rollout that is planned for 2021, as to continue the decrease in garbage related activities, and working potentially with the Farmers Institute next season to get some electric fence workshops in the valley, as there had been high demand this season, but we were unable to do any. So hopefully moving forward, I will be working with the Farmers Institute next season to do some electric fencing workshops. Thank you.
Sorry, lastly, we have Marianne. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Marianne. I'm the WildSafe BC Police Shulf Hitatsumakoa Community Coordinator. The word Police Shulf in the program's name is actually new channel for White Rock, which is also the name of the place that represents the territorial boundary between the Tokwat and Ukulele First Nations traditional territories that the program covers. So more specifically, I work within the communities of Hitatsu, Makoa, Salmon Beach, Muscle Beach, and also some neighborhoods of Electoral Area C. So this was the first year for the program and also my first year as community coordinator, and it has been a great season so far. So of course, a lot of the program delivery had to be modified to ensure the safety of each community during the pandemic, but it was still possible to reach residents and really promote wildlife coexistence. I've been extremely lucky to be able to collaborate and receive mentorship from the Pacific Rim coordinator, Bob Hansen, and by working together, we've really been able to extend our reach for the program in the region. So here are some of the main highlights of the season so far. So there was over 250 people reached through door-to-door activities and garbage tagging. Over 4,500 people reached through the WildSafe BC Hitatsumakoa Facebook page. Over 150 people have been reached through 5 community events and WildSafe BC presentation, including a bear spray demonstration and 4 public booth displays. 5 new electric fences were installed and subsidized through the ACRD program funding, and 1 was for a community garden, 3 for campground food caches, and 1 for residents' compost and fruit trees. 6 new signs were made for the community to inform the public of the use of electric fences and also the importance of not stopping on the side of the road to observe wildlife. And also the creation of 3 new informative short videos about latching community bins, the bear campground program, and electric fencing. All right, so that was a really quick overview. Right now, I'm still working on many more exciting projects and hopefully setting foundations for opportunities for the next few years. Thank you so much.
Okay, and right on time as well. So I'd like to thank you for your presentation. Are there any comments or questions? Director Bodner, please go ahead. And then Director Steer.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite interesting. I noticed there was a significant drop in black bear population from 2016 to 2020. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah.
I know we saw in about Alberni Valley, we saw a decrease in incidents with black bears. I don't know. The population decrease I haven't noticed it in the Alberni Valley. We still have a very healthy population of black bears, but I have noticed, I think we are attributing it to this past season's, the amount of natural foods that were available. We saw less conflicts with black bears, at least in the Alberni Valley region. I know. I'm not sure if that answered your question, sorry.
Okay, I think that's okay. I think I have Director Steer next.
Thank you very much for the reports, and wonderful to see the extension of the WildSafe program out into the further reaches of the ACRD. Bob, I had just a quick question about the collisions and deaths of the black bears on the highway. And I just literally this morning had another conversation with someone just recently having a collision incident on the highway. I'm wondering if you had noted any trends or if there was anything specific that was coming forward, and if there was any measures that we may be able to take to help mitigate that situation.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. There is a very good provincial education program, and anyone can find it by going to wildsafebc.com and looking under programs, and you'll see wildlife collision program, education program. That's really been an emphasis around BC this year. And for our region, on average, over quite a number of years, probably expect around 4 to 5 deaths a year. This year we had one event that killed a sow and 3 cubs. So that really upped our numbers in a single event. It was on a single lane bridge in the dark, in the fog. Really unfortunate set of circumstances. So it's hard to say at this point whether in that one event, whether we're going to keep seeing these incidents or seeing a solid trend in increased incidents. But it's sorry to hear that there was another one. So it's particularly bad year when we did so well on having so few conflict destructions. So it's a little bit discouraging, but we'll keep working on the education.
Thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions? Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. Just like to say that Sprout Lake had the normal amount of bears that I could tell from my neighborhood. A lot of bears into people's composts or garages. There's been a few. They comment on them on Sprout Lake Chatterbox. And there's a few neighborhood little Facebook groups that will comment about the bears. So they seem to be well at Sprout Lake. I didn't see any on the road. I didn't hear of any being hit, so I'm not sure of that type of injuries or with bears, but also heard that there was quite a number of cougars this year out at Great Central Lake.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I know a big part of that is trying to, because the numbers that we get are all stats that have been reported to the conservation service. So a lot of it, especially in the Alberni Valley, moving forward is going to be working on getting people to report sightings, not just, through Facebook or whatnot, and try to report them to the conservation service so that we can get those proper stats. Because a lot of the time there is a number of stats we're missing because people aren't reporting sightings or incidents. So especially in the Alberni Valley and Sprout Lake, a big part moving forward is continuing to sorry, I have a cough. My throat is closing up. Is to continue to try to encourage the use of the WARP program to report wildlife sightings so that we can continue to get those stats and not just through trying to find them on Facebook. So I know there is a number of animals that and incidences that we are missing in our provincial stats because of people not reporting them. But
so can I ask a question then? How are you publicizing that where people should be reporting? And I'd like to offer that we have a community website at Sprout Lake, and I do a newsletter that I could put something in there.
Yeah, so because the WARP program, so the Wildlife Alert Reporting Program, is super easy. It's found through our website. I can send you the link. People can sign up and receive notifications if there have been wildlife reported in their area that they're wanting reports for. And so I can send you that information, and yeah, if you could pass that on to the Sprout Lake newsletter, and just to get that word out there for people, that would be amazing. So I will send you an email after this with that.
Thank you for your work.
Great. Okay, before we go to Director Shannon, I'm just going to let everyone know in 30 seconds, a text should be coming to your phones, a test of the emergency system. So just maybe give a thumbs up or whatever if you do get it. It's always interesting to see if it works. Some carriers seem to be delayed, so we'll see how that goes. So while we're doing that, please, Director Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My question is probably, you guys can pick who's going to answer. When you guys did the stats of incidents with wildlife, I noticed you don't have Roosevelt elk. Is that under the other category, or do you not watch them? And then my other question is when you record an incident, is it merely a sighting or an accident? And do you include poaching statistics in your numbers? Thank you.
So I can answer your first two questions. So we do report elk. We don't have enough incidences that they get put into the other category, at least for the Alberni Valley. And so on the warp site, actually, each animal is color coded by the type of thing they were attracted by or the type of incident. So there are ones that are just observations, but they'll let you know if the encounter had been because of garbage or compost or livestock, or if they were injured in distress. So all that information is on there. I don't know about the poaching. I would have to let one of my co-workers answer that one if they know. But for those two, yeah, we don't have enough reports of elk for them to truly get their own statistic bar, just in regards to deer, bear, and cougars in our area.
Okay, thank you. I think the only question I have is actually whether or not we can set up a meeting between Hoyt and Bob and Mandy. I think there are some developments, and Marianne, if you'd like to be there, developments in regards to the upgrade to the Banfield Road that may have some considerations for our nation, and especially if we're going to get into recycling or organics in some way, shape, or form, it might be good to get a refresher. Won't be the next meeting, but maybe sometime when it's pertinent.
That would be great.
I think all of us as a group collectively would love to be part of that discussion for sure.
Okay.
Have worked with the Huat First Nation in the past several years together with Mandy, so it'd be great to keep the conversations going and look at what's coming.
That sounds great. And
yeah, I was hoping to reach out to them soon because I understand that Pachina Campground is under new management. And so if they're switching things up, now would be a great time to get the Bear Campsite program implemented there.
so they're also doing a public engagement on what considerations to be taking into in regards to not only whether and to what degree the campground will reopen next season, but some of the feedback on what should be done as a result of COVID, but also concerns like wildlife. So I think we're all getting into a good situation. So maybe if Bob and everyone can follow up with an email to myself and Doug and potentially Bob Beckett, then we can connect in with Huayet at some point in the future.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Excellent.
Thank you. Dr. Roberts, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Bob. As the director for Area C, I get a lot of calls with regards to bears from Muscle Beach to Salmon Beach, not only bears, but cougar and wolves as well. So if I can get that contact information, I'll make sure that it gets out to the Salmon Beach website and to others in the communities as well. So whatever you can do, whatever we can do to help support that is tremendous. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll let Marianne jump in there in that her program area actually covers Salmon Beach, and we were just out there, actually left information at 130 residents, but I'll let Marianne take it there.
Yeah, Kel, that's a great offer. If we're able to, communicate together to get some of that information out there, that would be really great. I think one of the big things that's lacking in the area is the calls to the conservation officers. And if those calls are directed to you in any way, people can redirect to the conservation officers, then that would be really helpful, and a way for us to really see where our actions are needed and how we can help the community.
Great. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? All right, seeing none, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and look forward to future reports.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that brings us to item that there is no correspondence for action. So that brings us to correspondence for information. So we do have a motion to accept the correspondence for information, but does anyone want to pull anything out? If not, please just feel free to move a motion. Dr. Shannon, you're gonna have to unmute though.
Thank you. Under the Island Economic Report for 2019, 7D from the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance, I just wanted to know, because when I was reading it, under the aquaculture and agriculture, they had some stats for aquaculture on the island, and then there was a very nice article about the craft beer industry, but I was kind of surprised to see nothing on like food. just something to note.
I think that's important to underline. Thank you for that. Dr. Haggard, go ahead.
Yeah, I was the one who submitted it. I went to the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance Summit a few weeks ago, and this is always released every year at the summit. So that is a good point, and I will send that to the organization who does this. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Could we get a motion to accept the correspondence for information?
Director Shannon, I'll move that.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Bodner. Last chance, any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, that brings us to item 8, which are requests for decisions and bylaws. 8A is a boundary extension for the Beaver Creek Water System local service area. It's 3 separate motions. So is that Jenny? Is that you? Oh, yes. Okay, well, there you are. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Jack. So this boundary extension, basically we have a property that has received water service a few years back, and doing an audit, we realized that they're not within the service boundaries. This was brought to the Beaver Creek Water Committee. They reviewed it and they recommend that we extend the boundaries to include this property. So this is the bylaw update that's required to add the property into the water system.
I would move, it's John McNabb here. I would move that the Albany Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to the bylaw E1054-1 Beaver Creek Water System Local Service Area Amendment 2020.
Director Shannon, I'll second.
All right, thank you for that. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
And I would move that the Albany Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to bylaw E1054-1 Beaver Creek Water System Local Service Area Amendment 2020.
Second, Director Shannon.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shannon. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
And I would give third reading, or sorry, I would move that the Albany Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaw E1054-1 Beaver Creek Water Local Area Service Area Amendment 2020.
Thank you. And Director Shannon?
Thank you.
Seconded? Okay. Okay. Any further comment? Last comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to item B, which is the Alberni Valley Regional Airport public request for our 2 lease lot number 9. Please take it
Yes.
away. Yeah.
So this is a request for a flying school. They're looking to build a hangar and office on the property at the Alberni Valley Regional Airport.
Great. Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll make that motion, but also like to refer this on to the Alberni Valley Regional Airport Committee. And I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Director Cote.
Do you want me to read it or no?
Please go ahead.
Okay, that the ACRD Board of Directors approve entering into a 3-year lease agreement with Formula Photographic Inc. for lot number 9 at the Alberni Valley Regional Airport, effective January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2024, at the rate of $1,529.78 per year, plus applicable taxes and yearly CPI increases. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodner. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, would you like to make that the second part a motion, Director Cote, or is that just something that can be added to the agenda?
If I could, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to inform the board that all of the lease information has been forwarded to the committee as they embark upon their work on the visioning exercise. So
Okay.
this has already been looked after. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that brings us to lease lot 18 and 19. So please go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, so this is a lease for a hangar. There's basically 2 buildings. One hangar will be for maintenance and the other is for plane storage. And this is also at the Alberni Valley Regional Airport.
Director Cote, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll make the motion.
Okay.
That the ACRD Board of Directors approve entering into a 3-year lease agreement with Dan Newham for lot number 18 and number 19 at the Alberni Valley Regional Airport, effective December 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2024. Should that be 2020, December 1st? That's next year. At the rate of $3,084.28 per year, plus applicable taxes and yearly BC CPI increases. Because
So
we are in 2020.
yeah. So does this start at the end of next year or does this start now-ish?
It's for 3 years. Sorry, I'll have to check and see.
Be for the
Maybe it's for January 1st?
I believe it was for this year because he was looking to start construction midsummer. So we can.
On page 87, it says the 1st of January, 2021. So yeah, we'll just amend it to be, and then
December 2020.
Yeah.
The previous motion was from January. This one is from December, so.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm on the wrong one.
And Mr. Chair, they can't exceed 3 years without a subdivision in order to register them. So I bet it is just, I think it is January 1st, 2021 in order to be a 3-year lease.
Okay. Okay.
I'll make that correction then. It's January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2024.
Thank you. So we'll just have that stand corrected instead of, it's not a substantial amendment, I think. So as long as, do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Haggard. Any further comments? Dr. Bodner.
Just a question, please. Could you explain to me why these are done in 3-year increments?
I'm actually going to direct
Do you want me
that.
to do that?
Mike, yes, thank you.
Yeah. So there's it's actually some court cases that determine that any lease of land that exceeds 3 years needs to be approved by the local approving officer, in our case, the provincial approving officer. So whereas leases of an area of land that are less than 3 years do not need that approval. So that's why we've been doing this. So it's quite we have in some instances gone into long-term leases. We have some examples where we've done 40-year leases, but it's quite a lengthy process and quite an expensive process. And it would be very difficult to recoup our costs if we're only charging $1,500 for the lease. So that's the rationale.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in
Director
favor?
McCarthy had his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Director McCarthy, please go ahead. Oh, and you're muted.
Sorry, I was trying to get your attention. I'm just wondering, I'm reading Mr. Newham's letter. He keeps mentioning that, or what in his letter he's responding or asking about it, or his lease at another airport was at 30 years. Is he trying to increase that lease currently, or is that his intent?
I think that he's referring to his previous experience, is my understanding of the letter, where he was saying that he's been working at this for 30 years in the past, and just saying that he has a hangar in Edmonton and he's done this before. I think he was trying to establish that he's going to be a reliable tenant.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're trucking along here. That brings us to 9.1, electoral area directors only, but we do need folks to stick around for quorum. So first one is 9.1A. Mr. Erg, please go ahead.
Yep, so this is a development variance application for a property in Banfield. The property is actually located on Burlow Island, and they are requesting a variance for both the front yard setback and the side yard setback, given the sort of the configuration of the lot and where the owners are wanting to site their house. The application was reviewed by the Banfield Advisory Planning Commission. I would also note that, and it's in the staff report, that there was substantial clearing within the development permit area on this property prior to the owners applying for a development permit. So one of the applications that is included in from staff is that substantive restoration and planting of the cleared portions of the development permit area, so this is the riparian area, as outlined in the biologist report, be undertaken prior to the board making a final decision on the variance. So again, this variance is in 2 steps. So this is being presented for the first step, and if it's the board resolves to move it forward, it involves neighbor notification and things like that. So with this one, staff are also recommending, in addition, prior to bringing it back to the board for a final decision, that we have confirmation that the restoration is well underway and the planting that's required takes place. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Director Roberts, and then Director Beckett.
Through the chair to Mr. Erg, is there a requirement that the property owners post a bond to ensure that this is taken care of properly?
No, we don't have a process for doing a bond. What we're proposing is that the planting and the work be done before we bring it back, so it wouldn't come back to the next meeting.
Okay. Director Beckett.
If I could just add to that, I'm comfortable with that, Director Roberts, in as much as this won't proceed unless that work's done. So while it's not going to be 100% assurance, if the work is undertaken, I'm confident, having met with the owners via Zoom last week, that they'll be motivated to get that work done so that they can move forward with the rest of the application. Having said that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Directors consider issuing development variance permit DVA 20006, subject to confirmation from the province of BC that the conditions in the restrictive covenant ET 78675 have been satisfied. Substantive restoration and planting of the cleared portions of the development permit area, as outlined in the biologist report, be undertaken prior to the board making a final decision on this variance. Neighboring properties being notified as per Local Government Act S499.
Seconded.
Thank you, Director Roberts. Moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item B. Mike, go ahead.
So this is another development variance application, a little bit different. This one is for a property in Salmon Beach. There is a partially constructed storage shed, and that shed height is 14.25 feet, and there is a maximum height of 12 feet in this zone, in this area. So staff are recommending that the board proceed through the first part of the development variance process, and which would include notifying neighboring property owners and getting feedback on that. And again, happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Director Cote?
Thank you. Through the chair to staff, just a question about this would be a situation where something is built before permit. And I'm wondering if this is going to be included as one of our areas that we could actually ticket for in the future. Thanks.
Did you want me to answer that first, or Director Roberts had his hand up?
You answer that first, and then we'll go to Director Roberts because he may move the motion as well.
Yeah, so certainly the building bylaw is something that the board has the ability to issue municipal tickets or bylaw notice enforcement. They're essentially tickets. It's not something we have in place, and if requested by the board, we will certainly bring that that information back at a later date when we review that.
Can I continue on that? Thank you. My concern is that people build things and they put a lot of expense and time into development. And if it's done wrong, I'd rather catch them at the beginning rather than at the end. Because if they have to tear it down, it's going to be, we're going to look like the bad guys once again. And really, all we're doing is protecting people and properties, making sure that developments are done properly. So just want to make that statement.
Thank you, Director Cote. Director Roberts?
Yeah, through the chair, and just to shed some light on this, this went to an APC meeting, and it wasn't, there are some conditions associated with this, and the problem that we're finding in a lot of areas is that people listen to their neighbors or listen to whoever and decide that, you know, they're going to go ahead and start to build something, and then they get red flagged and a stop work order and so on and so forth. So this is carrying through to the next phase, and there are some concerns about it, but it will be dealt with in the appropriate manner. We, the people out in Salmon Beach, are not too happy with this sort of thing going on. So we'll deal with it when it comes down to it, and I'm sure that we'll hear more from some of the neighbors. Anyway, with that, I would like to recommend that the Board of Directors consider issuing development variance permit DVC 20007, subject to removing the attached covered porch from the storage building, and that neighboring properties be notified as per Local Government Act S499.
Second, John McNabb.
Thank you, Director McNabb. Any further comments? Okay, moved and seconded. Director Bodnar, please go ahead.
This reminded me of the time we had a float cabin down the canal in Rainy Bay. And after a storm, there seemed to be so much debris that comes up on the shore there. And it's really in delicate areas where there is oyster beds, and there's a big pile of lumber and nails and metal and whatnot. I'd like to know what kind of policing is done down the canal to deal with these things perhaps caused by a storm. And that may even be part of the place, Burlow Island. Being on an island down in the inlet, when there is those big storms that do come in, Mother Nature has no mercy, and some of those nice things that might be all planted and whatnot will be all gone. Is it their responsibility to replace that again? And how do they monitor
that? Mike, did you want to?
Yeah, certainly. The properties that we've talked about so far in the board meeting, one's at Salmon Beach, and staff are there on a fairly regular basis. So it is a little ways away, but there are some regular building activities, and always have a number of ongoing building permits in there. So that's really, we noticed this construction going on, and it was red flagged, and then that's why they applied for the variance. Again, the property on Burlow Island is actually within Banfield Inlet. It's protected by Banfield Inlet, and again, staff are there. Staff do go to Banfield, probably not as often as we would like, but we are there, as well as just other people. Because it's within the community itself, so that we will watch that. So not the same concerns about the vegetation necessarily being washed away, although that is a concern still. And then with the more remote areas of the regional district in Barkley Sound and Glyquat Sound, it is a complaint-based process, and it's what we hear from other people. And then, with regards to float cabins and such, we do work with the province, and have been working with the province a number of years on things like the float cabin strategy within Barkley Sound. So we work with other agencies as well. Hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, so are there any further comments? The motion was moved by Director Roberts and seconded by Director McNabb. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay. That brings us to item C at the top of page 4, the temporary use permit. Please continue, Mike.
Yep. So this is a temporary use permit for a vacation rental that has been operating in the South Long Beach area. Again, it was part of our process where we're identifying vacation rentals and contacting people that are operating. These people have made their application, and again, it's the first step in the application process. Not exactly the same as the development variance, but very similar. Through a temporary use permit, there would be an ad in the paper and notification to neighboring properties if the board resolves to move forward with this first step, and then we would bring it back to a subsequent meeting. And again, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great. Director McNabb and then Director Cole.
So looking at the site plan on this, is this property cited proper, the building cited properly on this piece of land?
Just going to that section, I do know what you're talking about. On page 155.
155.
Yeah, so the property is that would be in meters. So that is about 5 feet. No, but it is the building's already sited there, so this is just to allow the vacation rental. We have a number of non-conforming buildings if they were built prior to the zoning bylaw coming into play. So this isn't a new building. It's an application to use this existing house as a vacation rental.
Well, I mean, if I may continue there, I mean, that's my concern. I mean, they're using it as a vacation rental, and the hot tub is 0.2 of a meter away from the property line. I mean, I don't know what's next door. I mean, it doesn't give us an idea of that, but I mean, if I was the neighbor, I wouldn't be too happy about that. And it'd be bad enough if it was just my neighbor, but when it could be anybody there, it really, to me, would be a red flag. And I would be opposed to this if I was the neighbor, but I'm not the neighbor. But maybe the neighbor likes that.
I'm just checking. So it is an R2 zone, and I'm just trying to make sure that I will quickly look at what the zoning is. But it is, you're correct that, you know, it is less than 6 feet from the property line. Just bear with me one sec. So the side yard setbacks in that zone are 5 feet. So it is, I'm going to do a quick check to make sure what that is in so it's fairly close. Sorry, I can't do it. I'm trying to do a quick conversion here.
Maybe I could just comment. I know that it says down below that the people who actually own the property who are putting in this temporary use permit application for they actually live next door. So maybe the property is theirs and that's why nobody's complaining.
Yeah, and I just did a quick check. So it is it actually meets the side yard setback, because the side yard setback is 5 feet, and 1.5 meters is 5 feet. So still doesn't change the fact that it's very close to the neighboring property owner, but or to the neighboring property, but it is cited correctly. Yeah.
The 0.2 on the deck, that's right as well.
I'm just going back to that section. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth on my screen and using my phone to convert.
Oh, to live in Canada. We use every unit imaginable.
Yeah, and sorry, I'd have to just do a little bit more checking on the deck, and I don't know how, you know, if it's there are some allowances for decks to go into the side yard, and I don't know how high off the ground it is. So we can certainly look into that, bring that back.
So if I could, so I'm to understand that the site plan 5 and site plan 3 are both owned by the same owner. Is that correct?
I'm just going to check if that's what it says in the report. Yeah, I don't have that. I'm not sure which property is the neighboring one.
The one on the east side is where the owners live.
Is it that? What is it? Sorry, I was looking for where it says that in the report.
It's on page 4.
Okay.
Or 153, either.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I can confirm. I think 3 is to the east.
Director Roberts, please go ahead.
Yeah, just further to that, this was introduced at an APC meeting on the West Coast and with Mr. Dyer, and everything seemed to be above board. And I believe that the proponents for this have a B&B in their existing house. So from everything that we received at that point, it seemed to be an acceptable development proposal. And I don't know if there's any other comments, but other than that, I'd like to make that recommendation. It'll go back again to the APC once it's done.
So we'll get Director Cole to speak, and then we'll go right back to you, Director Roberts, for the motion.
Okay.
So go ahead, Director Cole.
I know I don't get a say in this at all, but I just wanted to make mention that we had, when I first started sitting with you all at this table, we had a very sort of similar request to have more short-term rentals in Millstream. And at that point in time, Josie and I both expressed how on the West Coast, we're sort of at a serious clash when it comes to what kind of housing we actually need and accommodations we actually need on the West Coast. And short-term vacation rentals are super taxing our system. And I don't know what else to say about that. Josie said it way better last year, or at the beginning of this year, but it's just one more thing that if it was in the district of Ucluelet, we wouldn't be, the person has to live in that house and there can only be a max, and it's set up like a bed and breakfast. And even those would be, but to do more short-term vacation rentals would be something that we wouldn't be, we just don't have the capacity to deal with more people here on that sort of basis. And we are lacking homes for people to run the businesses that can then service the people who are here staying in short-term rentals.
Okay. Okay, with that in mind, where did you go? Sorry, everything shifted around. Director Cote and then Director Roberts.
Thank you. So this short-term vacation rental is for 365 days of the year. Am I correct? Thank you.
Yes, it is. And I think the other thing that I hadn't mentioned is they have been operating. So this is one that has been operating. We did not receive any complaints about it, but we did identify that it was one and contacted them. So just wanted to make sure that the board's aware of that. Definitely, all of the surrounding properties would be notified prior to this coming back to the board if it moves forward. And yes, the way the temporary use permit is proposed, it could be used year round as a vacation rental.
Okay, thank you for that. I have Director Roberts and then Director Cole and then Director Shannon.
Through the chair, did you want me to make that recommendation, or do you want to hear from the other people first?
Well, yeah, we can hear from the others if that's okay with you, Director Roberts.
That's fine.
All right, because you are within your rights to move it whenever. But
okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Cole and then Director Shannon.
Because they've already been operating it, and refresh my memory, maybe I'm wrong, but is there a business license required in Area C? And if so, they were operating without a business license prior to now, or there isn't a business license necessary?
There is not a business licensing. Regional districts are not able to do business licenses.
Okay. So they were just operating under wrong zoning till now?
Correct.
Okay. Director Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just looking for clarification. I'm looking at the map on 163. So they reside in 208. So they're on lot 3. And
Yes.
that's where they're operating the bed and breakfast. And then 212, lot 4, is the one where they have been operating as a short-term vacation rental, and they're just putting their application in for the temporary use permit.
Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, so then lot 5 that we were looking at where the deck's really close is not also the one that they own then.
Not as far as, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
and thanks for the clarification. You know, that's good. It's important. Understand that.
Okay, Director Steer, then back to Director Roberts.
I'm sorry for this, but I just need it as the new alternate. I was some clarification under the electoral area directors only on planning matters. Is Tofino allowed to speak or have vote on this, or is this not subject to the planning component?
So this particular item is only for electoral areas. When Tofino has a vote, it'll say in the section, like the beginning of the section, that it involves Tofino as well. There are some items that do involve the District of Tofino in regards to planning. So, but it will be pretty evident on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair.
If I can just, Director Steer, it applies to those items that fall within the biosphere area. So this area is just outside of sort of where Tofino is elected to participate in the rural planning.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that brings us to Director Roberts. Please go ahead.
I'd like to make a recommendation that the Board of Directors consider issuing temporary use permit TUP 20003 subject to neighbor notification as per Local Government Act S 494.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Don't like it much, but second it.
Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. So that starts the process. Okay, so now that brings us to item 9.2, which is for the participants in this particular item, which may be everyone. No, it is everyone, all directors. It's amending the UBCM Housing Needs Report application to include Tokwat. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Director Johnson, do you just want to go?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to move that the ACRD Board of Directors direct staff to apply to the UBCM Housing Needs Report Program to change the approved Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Housing Needs Report Project scope of work and budget to include Tokwat Nation.
Seconded.
Thank you, Director Roberts. Does anyone have any comments? I'm just glad that you were able to get in on that. So, okay, with that in mind, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. All right, that brings us to reports. So first of which is item 10.1 staff reports. This is mostly for me to remember. I'm going to say it out loud. Please look at the meeting schedule for December. And that will bring us to the Emergency Operations Center update report with Heather. So if you wanted to take that away, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So yesterday there were 941 COVID cases across the province. This was a record high yesterday and it's very concerning. On Vancouver Island, we have 152 active cases, including 95 active cases in the Central Island region, which includes all of the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. So 2/3 of the cases on Vancouver Island are in the Central Island area. Island Health reached out to us here at the Regional District and to many other agencies around the region to help communicate with the public that Central Island has the highest rate of positive cases on the island. As of November 19th, there were 76 active cases in Central Island, representing a 500% increase since November 10th. So we've shared that information out on Facebook and our website, and other people have shared it as well. So I'm hoping that the word is getting out there. But I encourage you to share our posts on Twitter and Facebook if you're on those platforms. So I'm sure most of you are aware, but I will just go over the orders that Dr. Henry put in last week. And these orders are in effect until at least December 7th. So there's no social gatherings at residences with anyone outside of your household, no music events, no seasonal holiday events, no movie theaters. Funerals, weddings, and baptisms can proceed, but they're limited to 10 people and they cannot have an associated reception. Religious in-person gatherings are suspended. Things like spin classes, hot yoga, and high-intensity interval training are canceled. And new yesterday was a requirement for indoor group physical activities to temporarily suspend until new provincial guidance is developed. This includes things like gymnastics, dance studios, martial arts, yoga studios. Gyms can currently still offer individual workouts and personal training services if they have a COVID safety plan in place. Also included in last week's orders were mandatory masks in all public indoor settings. There are now fines of $230 for not wearing a mask. In the order, travel is also limited to essential travel only, including traveling to work and to medical appointments. And so more locally, the Gargle COVID test is now available to anyone on Vancouver Island, whereas previously it had been only available to children. Testing is available 7 days a week in Port Alberni, and the turnaround time is about 20 hours in Island Health. Text notifications are available for your COVID results. However, this has been causing some issues for contract tracers because people getting their test results are getting them by a text and they're getting their results very fast, not giving the contract tracers time to start their contract tracing process. So Island Health is just asking a bit of patience for people who are getting their results very quickly to allow time for the contract tracers to start their process. And I think most of you know there's been an outbreak at Rainbow Gardens, which is a long-term care facility here in Port Alberni, which included 1 staff person and 1 resident. As well, there was the exposure at Alberni District Secondary School in Port Alberni. The exposure event was on November 12th and 13th. And then there has been a funding change through Emergency Management BC. They've amended their COVID funding policy, which ends supports that have been in place for a long time for the vulnerable population. This means that the funding that we've had for the shower facility in Port Alberni for the vulnerable population will end shortly. It's going to end at the December 25th. The province has indicated that there is a new $100 million fund for the vulnerable population, but unfortunately at this time I don't have any details on when the funding will open and who will administer it. So currently the shower facility is funded till December 25th. After that time, we're looking at trying to find other funding sources to cover the funding. The city has committed to continuing to provide the Echo Field House and cover the cleaning costs in the interim. Due to the increased number of COVID cases, we've increased our level of communication on social media and with our EOC spokesperson. I've invited all board members and city council to an EOC meeting on Friday morning that we'll have a chance to talk about the EOC further and communications at that time. But if there are any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sorry, I have Director Shannon, then Director Haggard, then Director Cote.
Thank you. Through the chair, Heather, do we know approximately what the cost is daily for the shower services that we're going to be losing the funding for?
It's about $1,100 a month. So that covers the cost of labor and cleaning supplies, as well as a support worker from Canadian Mental Health Association that goes and opens the facility and provides some support there.
Great. Thank you, Director Haggard, and then Director Cote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heather, I was wondering if they have pinpointed any factors that have contributed to why Centre Island has such a high increase in their numbers this past month.
Not specifically to Central Island. My understanding is that a lot of the cases in Central Island were related to travel to the Lower Mainland, to other parts of BC and Canada. Those people have come back to the island and socialized with other people. So maybe it's that people have, we were doing so well, people have let their guard down. But that's just an assumption on my part. I haven't heard any specific reasons why Central Island's been more impacted than South Island and North Island.
Okay, so that brings us Director Cote and then Director Minions afterwards.
Thank you. Through the chair to staff, would we happen to have any funding source available to help out with keeping the showers open? And I find that December 25th is just a statement, or I'm not sure what. I think that it's just a terrible date to be picking to end this funding and providing people with an essential service. So in this COVID state, I just am quite upset about that actual date. But I'd like to know if we have any funding that we could provide, or if the city has any plans, if we've been talking with them as to what's going to happen as of December 25th. Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you. The timing is unfortunate. The province was extending the funding for a month at a time, and that just happened to be when it ended. But I might just call on Doug to ask if he could speak to funding options, if he's there.
Mr. Chair, most all, I think, municipalities and regional districts got a lump of funding with respect to COVID to make reparations. We're in the process right now of studying what that funding could or might be used for. In talking to Mr. Ply, he's got some ideas as well about keeping that going, because I think everybody agrees that while the pandemic did not create the situation of people living with homelessness, certainly the pandemic exacerbates that situation, and so it takes special thought and at this time. So we don't have a specific answer about that, but we have a couple of candidate sources of funding that we're actively talking about right now, and because we all agree that curtailing that service is not the best course.
Thank you. That brings us to Director Cote.
Thank you. I'm just tying this into the problem that we are seeing through this summer and within all of the regional district with unauthorized camping. And, that now that winter is closing in on us, we talked about a housing needs study. There is a need, a dire need for housing for those people that are out living on the land. And when we start closing opportunities for them to have a shower, it's pretty bad within the city. So yeah, I'm really hoping that the housing study will actually take a look at people that are not housed at all, rather than just apartments in rural or urban type settings. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments or questions for Heather regarding this report? If not, Director Minions, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to comment, Heather. I know that the graphic went out. I think it was an Island Health graphic that talked about the increased numbers in the Central Island. And on there, they specifically noted Nanaimo, Parksville, Qualicum, and surrounding areas. And I've had some feedback from people who feel like our cases are not drastically increasing here because it specifically mentioned that part of the Central Island. So I'm wondering if we are in the same situation here, if Island Health could put out a similar one that just says Port Alberni for us to use, because I think it kind of sends the message to our community that we are not in a similar situation, that the area is, it's that the Central Island is increasing because of those areas specifically. So just some feedback on that. And I know that it's a small thing, but people can take things like that very literally. And we know that, we've got a couple local restaurants closed because they have COVID cases in their staff. And, anecdotally, we're all hearing about additional cases. So I would imagine that our rate is increasing comparably. That was just feedback that I've heard, that people are feeling like it's not here in the same capacity. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I have Director Cole.
I concur with Director Minions. I think if that was going to happen, if you could also please include the West Coast, as we have cases in both Tofino and Ucluelet and the surrounding First Nations communities. And I think it should be an all-encompassing addition, please.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. I did think the same thing when I saw the graphic. I just wondered if it was, somebody in Island Health that wasn't familiar with the Alberni-Clayoquot region. But my understanding is that that increase is widespread through our region. So it's not just reflected to those 3 or 4 communities that were listed. But I do understand that Island Health is working on some more, they call them heat maps. So some more localized information about where COVID is occurring. So as soon as that information is available, I'll share it publicly, and that'll give people a little bit more understanding of, is your community impacted the same way as Nanaimo or Qualicum?
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments? I think I'll just leave off with underlining the communications that have been put forward by Heather on Facebook and on Twitter. So if any of you online can follow the AV emergency page, is that what it's called? Just make sure that we reshare those things to as many people as possible, because there are some instances of folks thinking that they're all good once they've had an exposure, and no, or if they have symptoms but not COVID, you still have to wait the 14 days because it may still develop. And it's those differences that may make the difference between things going okay and things going out of control. So the more we communicate and the more we clarify points like that, I think the better off we'll be. With that, will anyone move to receive the communication or the information? Thank you, Director Roberts. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodner. All right. Any further final comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, no committee reports. That brings us to member reports. First of which is 911. Director McNabb. Oh, you're
trying to be quiet over here. So 911 is pretty active right at the moment. We're looking at our 2021 budget and trying to bring that forward. The provisional budget looks very much like last year, so there really isn't too many surprises, but we don't know what the end result of reapportioning may be, so we can't really bring that back at this point in time. I'd just like to share a couple of stats with you. In the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, police calls for the calendar year up to September 20th in Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District were 5,832. That is the second highest in all of the 911 service area. Comox Valley is 6,675, and a district in Nanaimo is 5,341. We pay the second lowest, so we're number 4 in the grid of our actual cost of 911, and we're number 2 in the actual number of police calls. The fire calls are right in line. We're number 4 in fire calls, and BC Ambulance, we're number 4 in BC Ambulance. So it's, you know, we are using the service, and I don't know what to attribute the high call volume for police calls to, but it's a reality, and we kind of have to look at that. Moving forward, there are some exciting things happening with regards to innovation in how we can respond to calls within the next 12 months. We should be looking at some form of ability to respond to video calling, and certainly within the next 12 months, everybody will be able to do a text or an email call to 911 at the end of about 12 months. So that's the next gen process, the expanded availability of receiving 911 calls, and that's a federal government initiative, and it's something that it's their initiative, but they don't fund it. So North Island 911 is positioned very well to make that happen, and the expense to its participants will be very minimal, because we've already sort of built it in and we're halfway there. So that's about it for North Island 911. Thanks. Anybody got any questions?
All right, Director Roberts and then Director Minions.
So through the chair to Director McNabb, were you aware of the change that's occurring as far as the former fire chief from Surrey that was in Nanaimo was now moved to Vancouver? Further, if I may, I've just received a report from local fire chiefs that because of the recommendation from the RDN and the city of Nanaimo, that the other southern participants in the 911 corporation have found out that they're moving to Surrey. It's not over yet, because there's been a great hue and cry from the fire chiefs and so on down there that this is not acceptable and they want to stay where they are. So just a little heads up for you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that. Plot thickens, but there's a lot going on there that I can't really comment on, but it's generally in the favor of North Island 911. Thanks.
Yeah. Dr. Minions, I think you were next.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the report, Director McNabb. And I understand that there is a push, of course, to realign how North Island 911 is paid for, given that, assuming it's currently, distributed based on population, if we're the second lowest, and looking to potentially, or some groups pushing to have it distributed based on call volume. I think that this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, because we hear it a lot that we, our community and our area utilizes services in a higher way than many other areas. And so we're often told that we should pay more for that. I think that it's important to note, and it's important for you to be bringing to these conversations, that while we might have the second highest call volume, we have the highest poverty rate. We have the highest child poverty rate. We have pretty significant socioeconomic challenges that lead to that high call volume. So I think that's a side of this that a lot of people don't often look at. The usage doesn't necessarily always translate to ability to pay. And I think that it's our responsibility as, a piece of this organization, whether we are on the low end of call volume, the high end of call volumes, to really look at equitable ways for these rates to be charged. So I know that you guys are having these conversations, but just wanted to bring that piece to it, that I think it can never be as simple as just who's using the service the most. There's a lot more to it that builds our communities than that. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Minions. Director McNabb, please go ahead.
So that was exactly my message at the meeting. I don't want to have any billing process that directly reflects the call volume. The service is there to be used, and we don't want to discourage people from using it. And but the fact that we do have a very high police incident number in the region, I think is something that we need to be looking at and seeing if there's some opportunity for us to take steps to reduce that, and not for the sake of North Island 911, but for the sake of our communities. So, but my comment at that meeting was we don't want to be restricting people from or discouraging them from calling 911 by telling them to phone their sister first. You know, it's a service that needs to be used. So, I mean, there may the opportunities for discussion are still out there as far as reapportioning. The library style apportionment is the one that receives the most interest. Right now, we're actually doing it by assessment based, and so that would be assessment plus population, and it still works out fairly well for the Alberta or for Alberta Clayoquot Regional District. It's not a big deal one way or the other. So.
Yeah, thank you. And if I could just one more time, I think that's great. And the library model of distributing the levy is, I think, in my opinion, a fantastic one. It balances, you know, assessment value, which speaks to wealth in one way, with population and other things. So I think that's a great method. And I think this is a pet peeve of mine, because the call volume that we have in our community leads to, a lot of people don't know this, but leads to the city of Port Alberni actually having the highest cost of policing per capita in the province. So it is significant. And, you know, when we have the highest cost of policing per capita in the province, that makes the ability for people to climb out of poverty and start to live above the poverty level even more difficult, which typically ends up, you know, putting more strain on our system. So I think that I appreciate very much that you're advocating to not go to a system that would penalize us for those high call volumes. Thank you.
Great. I think that's communication that needs to be repeated over and over. Thinking about it in those terms is very good. And
don't worry about that.
Yeah. Dr. Steer, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment around the assessment-based approach and how there may be an equation that high assessments are related to wealth, and I can speak to my particular area that that does not necessarily correlate directly, high assessments with the wealth of the region. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I understand that was not the intent of the comment, but that those are sometimes not directly related, especially areas such as mine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder. Are there any other comments on this particular item? If not, we can move on to the Vancouver Island Regional Library report. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. We met on Saturday, and announcement coming out of that, I think it's been put in the paper, is that our administrator, Rosemary Bonanno, is retiring, not till next year, August of next year, but that's the big news. Our libraries are all open, but 4 of them, which is really great news. I've got a bunch of information to pass out to the directors. Director McNabb mentioned that there was multiple libraries in different communities. The only municipality that actually has 2 libraries in it is Nanaimo. And regional districts, we're the only regional district that has no libraries, bricks and mortar. But just have to remind you that it's not per library, it's a library system. So we're a collective organization, and we support all libraries within our boundaries. We do have books by mail to Banfield and to be put on the list for a new library. There is a waiting list, but maybe we could make some kind of change with what's happening with the library in the city of Port Alberni, because there's $1 million earmarked for that renovation. And I'm not sure if it could be changed to have another library and keep the existing one the same size and with minimal change, because the first look at Port Alberni Library, I believe the money that was going for the renovation was only about $20,000 at the time, but now it's they've reassessed and it's gone up. There is something to do with structural, so that would be my report. Libraries are healthy and doing very well.
Yeah, from all indications, it looks that way.
Sorry, I
Go
do
ahead.
have something else.
Yeah.
We're asking to be given the accredited with being a essential service. So there will be a letter coming to the regional district, and there's a letter gone out to the Premier and to the Minister of Education, and I believe the Minister of Emergency.
Like public safety or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the ask, and they'll be asking everyone for support. Thanks.
Okay. Great, thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions? Moving on to the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce, Director Medians.
No report.
Thank you. Air Quality Council, Director Bodner.
Yes, thank you. On our meeting on November the 5th, Corinne Schiller came, and she is from the Environment Canada. She spoke on the use of small sensors to augment the future of air quality services. And she is involved in a pilot project that's going on with the help of the university in Prince George. And it's expected to last for probably 2.5 years. And one of the suggestions was perhaps Port Alberni, with their reputation of poor air quality here, might benefit from having more sensors used here. So Anna is going to look into that to see if we can get more sensors to be able to get more information that may be valuable for the future. We've had 4 wood stove exchanges this year, and since the last meeting, there was 4 vouchers, with 3 are upgrades and 1 was for conversion. There was a discussion we had that seems to be ongoing about how to regulate the emissions from wood stoves, and we haven't come up with any final answers yet. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to the West Coast Aquatic Board, Director Roberts.
Yeah, nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. AVICC, Director Cote.
No report.
Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee, Director McNabb.
We did have a meeting last week, and of interest, one of the discussion points was decommissioning completely the water pump station on the Somas Stamp River. And so that was the advisory board suggested that we really get together with all our participants, the Farmers Institute and everybody else around at the city of Port Alberni, to discuss whether or not disabling this system is our best path for the future. Once we do it and lose the water license, is kind of done forever, and the opportunity may be there to utilize it for some farm use, water base, or even as an emergency pump station for the whole of the valley, like the city of Port Alberni and Cherry Creek as well, in the event of a major emergency or a failure of one or those other systems. So we don't want to let it go till we've answered all of those questions. And I mean, economically, it's the way to do it. But as far as the big picture is concerned, it may be there may be something else. So we're going to look into that, and we can report back that at another day.
Thank you for that. Okay, I think you stay unmuted because I think the next one is the West Island Woodlands Advisory Committee. Yes.
Okay, well, this is always kind of a tough one to report on because it's just a complex kind of meeting. But the takeaway from the meeting was a discussion with regards to the old growth forest report that came from the province and the impact mostly on Western and their partners. It is interesting that Western basically there was very little impact because they were already working to a standard that was higher than the requirement. So you know, they fully understand the requirements and are working towards 100% compliance. And you know, I think that's a good thing. There was mentioned that the partnership with Hawaiian is kind of stalled at the moment, and so we hope that that's moving forward. At least I hope it's moving forward. And those things take a long time. There's a lot of money and a big investment, and there's always that guy with the standing at the door of the bank saying, "We have money, but we're not sure who's going to get it." So it's hopefully next month they'll be saying, "Yay, it's all done."
Thank you for that. That brings us to the Agricultural Development Committee. And that's Dr. Shannon, if you would.
Thank you. There was no meeting for November. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 8th. It was supposed to be kind of a wind down meeting as they weren't sure what was going on with the contracts. But since we extended that at our last meeting for the next 2 years, I'm sure they're going to be ramping up. And then I just wanted to note that the Canadian Association of Fairs and Exhibitions awarded the Alberni District Fall Fair Association one of the 2020 Innovation Awards for their efforts in going virtual this year.
That's awesome. Great. All right. Are there any other reports? Okay, seeing none. Could we get a motion to receive all of the member reports?
I have a report.
Oh, go ahead, Director Cote.
I'd just like to report out that I attended the Vancouver Island Coastal Community Climate Action Resiliency Summit. And I have notes that I'll share. They might not be absolutely clear to you what my notes are, but I think I've captured what was presented and the sessions that I attended. I also they are supposed to send out minutes, so I've been waiting for that to share. Very interesting summit, and I also had a meeting with Mosaic to discuss issues around Sprout Lake, and I've also had a meeting with BC Timber Sales regarding cut blocks in Sprout Lake area. And if anybody wants any information on that, they feel free to give me a call. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Would you like to make the motion to receive the reports?
I will make that motion to receive reports.
Thank you, Director Cote. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodner. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we have no unfinished business, no late business. Were there any questions coming into responses at acrd.bc.ca or from the panel?
No, there were none.
Thank you, Janice. So with that in mind, before we go in camera, I would like to call a recess because I need to use the washroom, and then there may be chances that others are there too. So can we take about 5 minutes or so? That's okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Director McNabb. Seconded by me. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, if we can try to get back by 3:20, that'd be good. Thanks.
Well, it won't be about another 10 minutes. After. We're breaking for 5.
Okay.
I like the music. Oh, John McNabb is gone.
Advent calendars for the kids. Huh? Advent calendars for the kids.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You tell me how.
Hi, John. How did today's meeting go this morning? I can't hear you.
Okay.
As far as the health network is concerned, I asked that question specifically and continued funding on that, and they said definitely.
Well,
so that part of it.
And do it again.
Good. The part about the difference in funding of patient care hours was much more vague. So we haven't really got to that point yet, but
Yeah, I shake it. It doesn't come out right.
all of the care beds are, there isn't a single care bed that they're developing in Alberta Claycoat Regional District. They're all somewhere else.
Just the slightest touch will bring it up. You don't have to push.
No, I just accidentally touch it.
I've done that too.
I've done
it too.
You yeah. There we go. Okay. So got a couple minutes.
Was that your music, John?
Yeah, I listen to the satellite radio when I'm working, just because they have these online only channels that don't have they have pretty it's called chill music, and it's basically good to have in the background, but there's no lyrics. So when I listen to music and there's lyrics, I get distracted. So I find that it's really good to use that way.
I think they call that elevator music.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I just realized though we're streaming to YouTube, so if there's a copyright strike, you only get 2 before your whole channel gets deleted. So if that happens, I apologize to the ACRD. Okay, I think we're in good shape here. Cool. Okay, so for everyone's benefit, even if they're just coming back now, it's going to take me a bit to read out the in-camera motion anyway, which includes the reasons why, which is quite important for actually going in camera. So the motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter sections. 91C, labor relations and other employee relations. 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a regional district service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the board, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district if they were held in public. 91J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And 21(1)(c)(1) of FOIPA, the head of a public body must refuse to disclose to an applicant information, the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to harm significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the negotiating position of the third party. So that is the motion, and I will move it to go in camera.